Okay, our first example. Class. The first example is when you know all the forces and you're solving for an unknown acceleration. Okay, so I'm going to call this guy unknown acceleration. Okay? Well, what you do to solve all these things, right, is that you want to set up this f is not a number. It's not like, am I going to use the 17 or the 9? Okay? The f means that you've got to use like the vector sum of those things, right? So in this case, I'm going to decide that to the right is positive, right? I'm going to decide that way is positive, and I always will make to the right positive. And then that means that to the left is negative. Okay? So take a picture, whatever it is, draw a picture of it if there's not a picture, right? And then decide which way positive is. And you can decide this from the problem. They might give you clues, like they might say that it's got a certain velocity or something like that. And if they give that to you as positive, that's the positive direction. Okay? And then this force then, because it's to the left, is negative. And then all you do is you set up an expression, and I always use these little angle brackets so that it's clear what we're talking about, right? And I just say positive 17 minus 9. That's all there is, right? There's just those two forces equals, and our mass is 5. And there's really nothing tricky about the mass, and then the acceleration is whatever it is, right? Okay? So mass is the only not tricky thing there, you know, unless I give it to you in grams and then turn it into kilograms, right? Okay? The forces, you just put them in there one by one. If they're positive, if they're negative, put them in there, right? And then in this case, we can solve for that, right? So 17 minus 9 is 8. 8 equals 5a, so what's a? 8 divided by 5 is 8/5. I know, what is that? It's like 1.8, or what is it? 1.6, there we go. Yeah, questions about that one? Do we have questions about that one? Okay, so in these problems, just decide, make everything to the right positive, everything to the left negative. Okay, then just set it up and solve. So that one, those ones are not all that hard, actually. And then okay, so now the next one is an unknown force one. Unknown force ones, I think, are more difficult. Yeah, he's here. Okay, unknown force ones are more difficult. So here's this 35 kilograms. Okay, there is a 450 Newton force here, and that one is given to us, but there's more than one force. So there's 450 newtons, and then there's some unknown force, right? The acceleration is 9.0 meters per second squared, right? And that is its acceleration to the right, which of course is going to make it positive, right? And then there's some unknown force, and we're just going to say that we don't know which way it is. So that's why I'm drawing the arrow both ways, kind of like a push me, pull you force kind of thing, right? Now, I think if you think about this thing, you would know that the force has to be actually in opposition to the 450 newtons, and this is how you'd know, okay? Because 450 divided by 35, that is, if that's the only force, the acceleration should be this divided by this, yes? Which is more than 10. Isn't that right? Yes. Yet the acceleration is less than 10. Isn't that correct? So therefore, I know darn well that the force is going to be a negative force. But even though I know that, and even if you didn't follow that, by the way, it's not necessary to understand that or follow that. The math is going to give us the answer as negative some way or another. And here's what I recommend. Always make your unknown forces positive. Okay? So set this thing up. Positive is to the right. That means this guy's positive. This guy's positive. Unknown forces I always make positive. Okay? So I go 450 plus my unknown force. Now what if it's not positive? What's going to happen? It'll end up being negative. The number will come out negative. So we have to do careful math, right? And then we go 35 times positive 9. Now I know that 9 would be positive whether I put the positive there in front of it or not. right? But I'm emphasizing that I've consciously analyzed the picture. The acceleration is that way, and I'm going to make it positive. If it were the other way, then I would make it negative. So you just have to be very careful when you do this, that these guys here, right? These guys all are going to be, there's a plus or a minus there, and you have to consciously decide which way it is, right? Okay. Now we can solve this one. We can solve this one. I'll pass this back to Nick. We can solve this one. 9 times 35 is 315. Right, so 450 plus f is 315, right? So f has to be a negative number, doesn't it? F is minus 135. Yeah? Okay, so the fact that it comes out negative, that negative means something. It means that it's to the left in this case. Yeah? That makes sense? So if it's an unknown force problem, just set it up. The unknown force is a positive thing. Be sure about your direction of the acceleration and all the forces, the other forces, right? And then just solve for f. If it comes out positive, it's to the right. If it comes out negative, it's to the left. Does that make sense? Let's have you guys try these. Look, the roof is shaking. Somebody's up on the roof walking. Look at the display. Yeah.